All right, good morning. It looks like it's recording. This is a player recap and reflections of last night's old school essentials Chronicles of Joth campaign session. Session number 51. Um, Lots of years we've been playing this. A lot of people coming and going. Big kind of interruption in the summer months as we just have a lot of people busy. So I was unable to play in Barrel Maze last night or the night before, Tuesday night. Unfortunately, I was planning on it and unfortunately wasn't able to attend. So, but I was able to make last night's OSC. So I missed Barrel Maze, but able to get here. And this was important because we haven't played since July. No, July. Well, I don't know. They played session 50 without me. I think that might have been in July. I can't remember. June, July. So I had to play Martin, my third level thief in this one because Lars, um, in session 49, Lars challenged the beta um uh tribal leader of the Longfangs for the new alpha role. Lars, because he's not a Longfang, has to go out and discover his spirit animal before he can come back and stake a claim to becoming the leader of the Longfangs, what is known as the Alpha. That's Alpha Beta, right? Uh, so this I had no idea about because I wasn't in session 50. So Lars, we assumed for this session, Lars is off doing that. So I reprised my role as Martin the thief, which I really miss. Martin had originally left. I don't know what session, but it was months and months ago. Last time I played Martin, it was Martin, George, and Thana, and we were given a job by Jacotus, who's living in the tower now that we've secured the tower. He'd given us a job to go get Hilda, rescue Hilda from the Longfangs. She was being held captive. So that session, and I can't remember which session it was, we all left in a blizzard. It was winter, so there was a blizzard and there was snow on the ground, and we all trudged off to do that. And when we came back the next session, one of the players was not able to be there, so I made Lars, or I made another character. I think I promptly had to create Lars, or actually, I took over Lars after my character had been killed. My dwarf had been killed. Um, and that was when Eloy joined, etc. And we were again, we assumed that same job quest, except we Martin and Thana were separated from George. So George joined with the dwarf and with the Eloy's character, and we went on those. We went out to still try to find Hilda. We just Martin and Thana. We basically had written out. They had gotten lost. They'd gotten separated in the blizzard, etc. So Deanna had come back a couple of sessions ago, but I had been playing Lars. So this was my chance to get Martin back. So I introduced Martin back to the group. This was great. So I don't know. I literally don't know what happened in 50. I haven't listened to the recap. I haven't watched the session. I haven't listened back to the session, so I have no idea what happened. Todd does give a quick recap of events, but what matters is the play, and he opens up with us in Blackfish Bay, the group witnessing Hilda actually escape from the Blackfish Bay Tower and drop down into the water and climb aboard a boat and head out of the harbor. And she does this with a quite shocking explosion, blows a hole in the roof or in the side of this tower, and leaps with a bag of gold. What we can tell is a bag of gold, trailing gold, into the water. She splashes in with the treasure, climbs aboard a boat, and takes off. Now, we don't know whether she's in cahoots with somebody, but only one other person was on that boat. He describes this to the party. My character, I introduced as having picked up her trail at some point when she escaped Longfangs again. finding her by accident, trails her into Blackfish Bay trying to find her, doesn't realize she's in the tower, and then witnesses this. So I described Martin to the group as he's now this, he looked like he's been living in the woods for months, beard and scraggly hair, and they might not recognize him at first as they hadn't seen him in months. And we secure a boat of our own. And at Sword Point, I try to secure aid on the boat. I don't have a gold piece, or I didn't realize I had a gold piece to pay the fisherman. I told him, "You're going to do this for your town." Thana, cooler heads prevailed. The status says, "Put that away," and gives a gold piece to the fisherman. We all load on this fishing boat and we make chase for Hilda, of course, playing in this. Let's go over this. Adele is playing his elf illusionist. Zerenius. It's been a while. I can't remember. Um, I'm playing Martin the Thief, Human Thief. George, we got John playing George the Bard. We've got Eric playing a Damaris, a cleric. We have Justin playing Thana, I think she's also a cleric. David was unable to attend, and Eloy, unfortunately, couldn't attend. So we would have had a packed house and would have been amazing. So anyway, we make chase. And as we start to cross the lake, and this boat is headed, the boat we're chasing is headed like right toward the middle of the lake, or what appears to be right for the middle of the lake, which is the Lake of Talons, these rocks that jut out of the middle of the lake. We see ripples in the water, and we spot rushing as we make chase, rushing out of the forest and diving into some fairly large creature. And it begins as we can just see its head or its tail or whatever as it cuts a wake through the water, trying to intersect one of our boats. We don't know which one at first. As it gets closer, we continue to make chase. We're actually catching them up. And this creature comes under our boat and jostles it, knocking everybody into the boat except myself and Damaris. We proceed to try to fish out our colleagues who are wearing plate mail armor, or they're going to be sunk. And so Damaris quickly, with an oar, sends out help to Thana, who grabs hold. My character jumps over and helps aid after a debate. Helps bring George on board, and Zernius, I can never get his name right. Dell's character is caught kind of in some netting, but he climbs up and gets on board the ship. I don't know, is this a boat or a ship? I would say it's a boat. I don't know what constitutes the difference. I mean, a ship is generally large. This is a fishing boat, and it's setting low in the water with all of us on board. Anyway, this creature then upends the boat we're chasing with Hilda and the pilot of that boat. Literally turns it over, sending her into the drink, and aloft, sending Godmere, the other fishing boat captain, aloft into the water. And we watch as he screams out and goes under, and then we see a plume of bloody water. So we know that Godmere has been devoured by this thing, or has been killed, or whatever, by this thing. Again, he then upends our boat, knocking everybody in. We fish him out, and it jumps aboard our boat, and we have an epic battle. And it was a great battle with this. Todd calls it a scrag. It's a water troll. And as we are fighting it and doing damage, we are, though, noticing it appears we're seeing some wounds spontaneously heal as it fights us. So we now know we're dealing with a creature that regenerates. But along with Hilda's help, as George, um, our boat still floating toward their capsized boat, gets close enough that George offers her an oar, brings her aboard, hands her his sword, and we all make melee on this creature in the boat. Zerinius is killed. The creature waylays Zerinius. And Demarius takes a wound, but fortunately survives. I take a wound, but I'm surviving. And it is an epic battle. And with Hilda's help, George, all of us, we managed to bring this creature down. Martin gets the final kill shot. So of course, he gloats a little bit that he has brought this beast down and kicks it into the lake. He then quickly, we feel like a rumble, and we hear like kind of I don't know, not a thunderclap, but we notice the talons suddenly infuse with energy and light up these veins of energy, and it sends out like a like a I don't know, some kind of a boom, and it sends a tsunami from the center out. And we begin to try to row as fast as possible to get away, but of course we're not going to get away. We can't possibly outrun this thing, and it sends the capsized boat and our boat um, ashore, some odd 30 some odd feet ashore. We all have to make a saving throw, um, and those who don't have to take damage. And this is where we lose Demarius, and Dell loses his second character. So Dell may spent our fight making a new character, and he took over Pavin, the captain of the fishing boat. And when it was launched and hit, he failed to save and then died. So Dell literally rolled up a dead character. So I laugh, but dude, this is old school. This is old D&D Moldvay, baby. It's lethal. And when you're going to make a character and drop them right into the shoes of an NPC or a hireling or a henchman, they're in it. They're in the shit, so to speak. So that occurs, and we lose Dell, we lose Damaris, which stinks. We Most of us though beat up. We are alive and well. Thana heals George as he took some damage. She heals. I can't remember if she heals herself first and then she heals George. And my character made the save. I'm the only one that made the save, so my character didn't suffer any damage. And the other boat is hung in a tree. So again, live, man, we're playing, and you can bring in a new character or roll up a new character on the fly. So Dell again rolls up another character and introduces this character having come running as he was washed up, his camp and everything destroyed by this tsunami. Again, the wave is only so high, but when it hit shore, it launched us. So it wasn't hitting, it wasn't hitting it hit the shore and went up to like 30 feet inland, right? But I don't know how high it was when it hit shore, but it launched our boats onto terra firma. Anyway, so we meet Candle. We don't meet her yet. We meet Dell's new character, Nevin. He sounds like he is a hunter slash maybe a thief. Introduces himself, begins to help us clean up our mess, looking through our gear. We do bury Demarius, and we also take all of his gear and give it to Hilda. We then have to climb, and then we're concerned about this. She took off with the all the loot held in the tower. That loot is to pay the god of Thraxus. So my character is a thief. He wants that loot, but I'm also a little terrified of what's going to happen when Thraxus comes calling. So I'm like, where we got to, is that treasure in the bottom of the lake? I can't believe it. What have you done? She's like, no, I secured it in the boat, in the rigging of the boat. So I'm being a thief. I climb the tree quickly, and I happen to get up there and find a young girl, Candle. This is Eric's new character, a female, I'm assuming, thief, and she's already found it. And of course, she introduces herself and hands me the treasure over. I drop it down, and then we descend the tree, and we do a meet and greet, and then we agree we have to get. Hilda reminds us that she has in that bag of loot what she was sent by Jacotus to get, and she must return it to Jacotus now. And of course, Thana, Martin, and George had all originally taken a job to go rescue Hilda and help Hilda. So we stand on the western shore of Lake of Talons, only a few hours hike along the shore up to the tower where Jacotus is at. So we agree this is perfect because we're supposed to bring you back. So all of us, all except our two newbies, Nevin and Candle, are part of this. So I attempt to convince the two new characters they have to take a knee and swear an oath to us to be, and Nevin declines. and Candle just ignores me. And Thana says, "No, you don't have to do that." So every time Martin attempts to exercise some authority, Thana undermines him. So it's kind of fun. And again, I have no authority, so she should undermine me. But boy, Martin would like to, right? So anyway, they agree to join us. We trek along the lake, and we climb up to the tower, and we see that much has happened in the months since we've been gone. The walls are being repaired, the towers being patched and repaired. There are a lot of workers. There is a new cemetery of all the. They're going to need a lot more holes because wow, right? So all of our dead and tombstones are buried there outside the wall, and fantastic. So we get in, we meet Jacotus. She gives him a scroll, and then he proceeds to take us up in the tower and unfold this scroll and show us what it is. And it is a map that has clearly been secured from an organization called the Crimson Moon. And they are obviously the enemy of Jacotus. And Jacotus, we find out, is a Jade Raven. So we have the Jade Ravens have secured this map. And there's a lot of scribbles and there's a lot of handwritten notes and scribbles all over this map of obviously observations or of secrets. And Jacotus then says, "There's the next phase of this. I need you to go, bring a visitor from Bricket Bottoms back to me. He's coming in. He should be coming into Joth." Matter of fact, he actually tells us this event at the Lake of Talons when these rocks came alive with power and sent a ripple, a shockwave. He actually implies that it was the arrival of his friend through the portal at Bricket's Bottom, which is not lost on Martin. It's like, wait a minute. So some dude comes through a portal and this happens. This must be a powerful dude, or he has something with him that caused these towers of magical stone to send out a shockwave. At least that's how I was perceiving everything, in session. But I keep mum. Nevin, being not so sharp, asks a lot of questions, which is good because we find out that he is a Jade Raven. And we're ultimately working for the Jade Ravens in this deal. He tells us George doesn't like the sound of a escort mission. However, Martin wants money, so I ask, how much are we going to get paid for this? This is 100 gold. Well, what other options do we have? Because 100 gold split 4 or 5 ways. That doesn't mean much to Martin. So he tells us of a goblin problem west, and they have an item that we must get. And at the same time, we might be able to end this Goblin King. Again, Martin's first inquiry is, well, how much? And that's 500 gold. So Martin agrees immediately that if that's our two choices, or if that's, it's not our two choices, Todd, we can go anywhere we want, do whatever we want, but these are the two things Jacotus would like us to do. And he said, and then we have many other missions as he looks at the map and points out all these amazing secrets. And so we all agree that that would be a good idea. Let's go deal with these goblins. Let's make 500 gold. And we get to keep any treasure we get, and we'll bring back this rope of some magical rope. And we agree. And that's where we end the session. So that's session 51. So great fun to be back at the table. Barrel Maze, I was able to do Barrel Maze last week. I think it was last week. And again, that was amazing fun. So we're doing two old school D20 OSR games. They're fantastic. They're both very different. Same engine, same kind of idea of fantasy, swords, and sorcery, but completely different, almost genres in a way. Barrel Maze is that intense, hardcore dungeon crawl. We are adhering almost completely to rules as written with a couple of tweaks. And then, of course, Joth is this epic open world sandbox, almost West Marches style of gaming. We have seen many, and of course, using an older version of D20, which is, again, a Moldvay remaster, the D&D Basic Expert Moldvay remaster. And of course, Dragon Slayer is an OSR. I would say kind of a Moldvay AD&D 1 kind of amalgamation. And they both provide these amazing settings, genres. Joth's world is, of course, out of Todd's imagination and Todd's creation, so the genre is different than what we're getting from Gary Gillespie's, Barrel Maze and Dragon Slayer universe. Phenomenal, and we're playing with a lot of the same people, having again a great time. I wish I had not missed Barrel Maze on Tuesday night. That would have been amazing to get back there. We're right. I think we're about. Oh, actually, I think we're going to do some excavation before we get back into the Barrel Maze. So I think that's what they were going to do. I don't. I literally haven't seen it. I don't know what they did last time, but I'll get caught up before the next session of Barrel Maze. Reflections. There's not much more to reflect about in these, right? I've talked a little bit about having a chance to now to be a player consistently over a long term using my favorite games, the old D&D, OSR, D20, um, from a player's perspective. It's not going to change. It's not going to suddenly get worse. I can only wax poetic about it, so I probably won't do that a lot anymore. I'll do recaps, and I might talk about interesting experiences that occur that are new. But the reality is, it's the sweet spot, and it's wonderful to get back to it with friends. Todd is brilliant about getting these games done in an hour and a half, 2 hours, as is Eloy. I think all of our games with Eloy are done in about an hour and a half, which are amazing. I like that. I'd rather play weekly and finish in 90 minutes than play bi-monthly and play 4-hour sessions. I mean, maybe I'm just too busy, too old now to want to do that. It's fine, if you get a 3-hour session. Depends on how much we're doing and what we're achieving in a 3-hour session. But it's really a sweet spot, especially when we have five or six players at the table. It's really nice. You'd think you can't get much done that, with 5 or 6 players, but you do just fine. Everybody communicates fine. I don't think anybody feels like they're not achieving anything. However, my want with old school is to play to find out. My want is to not to have plans as a player character, right? I don't have plans to become the leader of the Longfangs. It was a moment where Lars had rejected him and was kind of disgusted by him and blamed the Alpha. And then when he found out the Alpha was dead and some Beta had taken his place, he thought, here's my chance to, take control of the Longfangs and fix them, right? It was a spontaneous action that's become just part of the game. But I don't play old school characters with some plan of action. I've got a goal. I want to rob. I want to heist the tower. I just play. And if the tower, there's something in the tower we all need, it becomes the tower heist. But it's not because my character has some goals, plans, some story. I prefer when players don't play that way in my games, and I prefer GMs allow us all the flexibility to wander to the right, wander to the left. Railroading to me is not something to do. It's not a problem we must deal with. That isn't railroading to me. How we deal with the problem, being told where we're going to go and how we can deal with the problem, ignoring our input or ignoring what we want to do, that's railroading. And I've never been railroaded by anybody I've played with online. I don't think I've been ever in a session where I've actually been railroaded in as a player in um 16 years. Yeah, not that I can recall anyway. Almost everyone I ever played with, yeah, there might be a thing to do. There might be a mission. There might be a reason we're there. But I've never really been railroaded. I've never really had anyone say, when we say, hey, here's what we want to do. We want to mint our own coins and do this. And the GM just ignores it and says, well, you can't mint your own coins right now. You got to go do it. I've never really been in that situation. A matter of fact, I find it hard to believe anybody who's a veteran gamer, an adult, playing with veteran adult gamers with any experience at all would, number one, do that, and number two, suffer it very long. I mean, you would either say goodbye to that GM, or you would say to that GM, dude, this ain't gonna work. You can't ignore us when we have a plan that we want to build a little army and go attack the goblins. And it's like, for some reason, he doesn't want you to have an army. And so he's gonna make it impossible for you to build an army, or he's gonna let if the players, that's their plan to deal with the Goblin King, they're gonna build a little army of henchmen with pitchforks. Good luck. So um in that sense, I can honestly say I'm lucky. I have never really suffered a railroad type session from any of the people I've ever played with. Again, that doesn't mean we didn't have things to do. We didn't play encounters, or we weren't playing a module, which is obviously got that's different. You agree to that. It's a social contract. You agree, guys, we're going to play a module. We're going to play Star Trek, or we're going to play whatever. And there's this thing we're doing, and we all agree that we're going to participate, right? And you still, though, should have ideas and plans on how you want to deal with the problems. And the GM should not say, well, it doesn't say here in the module you can do that to solve this mission. It's railroading. You gotta be capable as a GM as recognizing, oh, I can see how they can apply this to the problem to solve this thing, right? So anyway, which again goes completely, I won't say completely, but is almost an antithesis of Dark Age of Man. What Dark Age of Man is, right? The GM is a player presenter, and it comes in naive, knowing only what the players know, and maybe a little bit behind the scenes because he's got a chart and he knows maybe the context of that chart. But outside of that, it is completely driven by the players' goals, desires, wants. They're also dealing with what's happening contextually. But there is no idea that there's some real thing they have to be partake in, other than Dredgewater and potential Vikings raiding, or there's a famine or some setup that puts them in context. But so it's different. It's a different animal, and the players very often are motivated by what they want to achieve as a character. I really do want to become the head of the church in Dredgewater. So the player is going to angle maybe to try to establish a relationship with the with the Lord of the land, to maybe get a foothold, or to arm wrestle Falcone out of the head of the church, right? It can become something a player actually has aspirations to do. And so they're going to have an aim of that, but there's also the rest of the players, and there's also things happening in the world. And then there's random variables that will occur. So you really, as a GM in that, should not even know the total mental makeup of the NPCs, how their attitudes are going to be toward everything. When a player makes a roll, for instance, in negotiating with the Lord about this particular thing, the quality of that roll is going to dictate the Lord's feelings about it, as opposed to me saying the Lord ain't going to want to replace Falcone. So that becomes this instant block, almost a railroad, if I decide that the Lord loves Falcone. I shouldn't know that when the players go into conversation with the Lord. That should be kind of free from the conversation and some dice checks, some difficult. Now I can set his favorability. If he's really in favor of Falcone staying ahead of the Dredgewater Church, I can set that DV at 9, that he's really likes Falcone. So I'm setting a DV, but I'm not deciding that there's just no way the player is going to become the head of the Dredgewater Church, right? Or that the Lord's going to just negatively stiff arm the player who's got aspirations. Now, obviously, it depends on how the player goes about it, right? The player just walks in and says, hey, I want to be the head of your church. That's bad role playing, and difficulty value just went up to 11. Make a roll, right? What's your prestige? Make a roll. Anyway, it's great fun. And we had a lot of fun last night. We rotate initiative, and we had a couple saves in the game. We had a couple of dex checks, dex and under, for falling out of the boat, or grabbing hold of the oars, or climbing back into the boat, or helping somebody get back into the boat. That old simple 6 attribute, a D20 and a D6. There is no game mechanic that a GM cannot adjudicate instantly with these devices. And players just know, oh, I get it. That makes sense. Make a dex check to climb into the boat. You got plate mail on. Oh, players know immediately. dude, that makes total sense. I'm dropping the dice. But nowhere in Moldvay does it mention such a thing. And this is why the D20 has lasted literally for 50 years. And it's why there's been constant tweaks and rule changes to try to canonize or qualify all of these things that GMs have been doing for 50 years. They try to make them into rule, so there's just no guesswork happening between players and GM. I think it takes some of the joy out of that hot seat gaming for the GM. When a player says something you just don't anticipate, it's all, I like the GM being free to say, coming up with a, a, a an adjudication to resolve it. Um, as long as it's fair and as long as it makes sense, right? So, all right, everybody have a great week.